The cult of personality.
Greetings, every peoples. This is your cult of personality here. ToonKritic's name and Toon's the name of my game, and I like to start this review off by saying F Rotten Tomatoes. Seriously, guys, I understand your points, I understand your reviews, but 22%? You mean to tell me this is worse than Batman v Superman? That is being really harsh, because if I'm going to be honest, I didn't think it was that bad. Well, here, let me start off like this. I am a huge fan of the Ratchet and Clank series. I've played the first 3 on the PS2. It was one of the first few trilogies on the PS2 that I got to play. I love it, still do to this day. I played the first one to get myself hyped up for it, and I also got to play bits of the new game. So, with this being in my head, that I'm a very big fan of the series, when they announced that there was going to be a Ratchet and Clank movie, the hype train couldn't go any faster, and now it's here, and if I'm gonna be honest, it's not exactly lived up to the hype I hoped. Not saying it's a bad movie, but I'm going to start this off by saying what it did wrong, but then finish this what it got right, just to be fair. So as this is a reboot, they've strayed pretty far from the original source material. If you look at the movie, they've added in a lot of things that weren't in the original. Now, usually I'd be okay with that, because as long as you're sticking to like the original basis, the original formula and foundation of the first game. Okay, that's all fine and well. But watching this, I thought to myself, I don't remember that in the game. I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I certainly don't remember that. So I understand why they chose to mix things up. They wanted to take the best bits from the 3 games and meld them together to start something new. Whether or not this gets a sequel, depending on the Rotten Tomatoes score, that's going to be up in the air. Now, they did this in a good way, but also a bad way. A bad way in being that it's a little confusing to follow. If you've played the first game, you know the original story of it, but for people who are walking in who have never played a Ratchet and Clank game, they're a little confused. They don't know what to really expect. People are going to walk in seeing this as a start of a new franchise. And if I'm going to be honest, this is not the best way to do so. I understand that you can't cater to the original fans. In order for this movie to be good, it has to not only succeed on its own, pretending that the source material doesn't exist, it also has to please the fans. And you can't just go off of the fan support alone, if you get what I mean. I actually have to thank my good friend Alex for pointing that out to me. Straying far away from the source material, of course, is going to piss a lot of people off, but if you do it in a way that works, like, let's see, what was something about the reboot I didn't like? Oh yeah, the Space Rangers, the Space Cadets, whatever you want to call them, that were just there really to be side characters. There was nothing about that in the original game, so putting them in here doesn't make them really fit in well. The story itself feels like there's 2 in 1. The main villain of the original game was Chairman Drek. Okay, cool, you got that right, but then you throw in Dr. Nefarious. Okay, that's jumping really far ahead. That's the 3rd game's antagonist. So what's Dr. Nefarious doing in here? Well, I can't really say, as I'm trying to make this spoiler-free at the moment, but it confuses me a little bit, because Dr. Nefarious is notably the main villain of the entire series. He's the big baddie. He is the ultimate arch nemesis. I can understand why they went with that, but you'll find by the end, I think they pulled the trigger a little too soon here. It would have made more sense if they just stuck to Drek, have him be defeated like in the original game, and then allude to Dr. Nefarious for the future. That's a nice setup that guarantees a sequel. Well, this movie kind of did allude to a sequel by the end, but, what can you do? But the worst part of this movie is the cringe humor. Okay, cringe humor works in some places. Here, not so much. I understand that Ratchet and Clank has a certain flair to it, a certain sense of humor that makes it work. There's funny meta jokes, like the joke, I actually found this really funny. I sat up seeing this when Clank is identifying Lombaxes. He's like, I don't recognize your species, and you see him shifting through pictures of Daxter and Sly Cooper, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny, I will give you that. But about 70% of this movie's humor is on jokes that didn't make me laugh. There's some cringe in it. And usually that's what they do in the games, but when they do it in the games, it comes off as a little bit quirky, a little bit goofy. Here, not so much. A big reason why this movie got such a low rating and so many bad reviews is because of the humor. And if I'm going to be honest, I see their perspective. The cringe humor doesn't always work. Also, is it just me, or does it feel like the celebrity voices didn't quite fit? I mean, Paul Giamatti is the villain. I didn't even know that was Paul Giamatti. It was kind of like an Amazing Spider-Man 2 moment where I'm like, that's Paul Giamatti? Oh, okay. That bothers me when you have to have Paul Giamatti and Sylvester Stallone sell your movie when the actual main characters, the voices for them, get all the way shifted to the right here. That bothers me just a tiny bit. You could tell Sylvester Stallone was one of the characters too, but even he felt a little bit miscasted. Rosario Dawson is one of the Space Rangers tech people that, I guess, the other voices worked. Vincent Tong seemed to work. Bella Thorne, seemed to work. But did we really need, the celebrity voices? When that was announced, a lot of people were confused about that. I know that's a minor complaint, but it's something that bugged me. Now, what did this movie get right? Okay, this one is easy. When Ratchet and Clank made its debut on the PS3, people were comparing, the animation level to Pixar. And I thought that was a little bit generous. But it really looks good. And here, I can honestly say that the characters have never looked better. Ratchet looks amazing, Clank looks amazing, Quark looks amazing. The detail to the backgrounds, the cities, the space, all of it looks solid, and I think this was the best way to do so. Keep it animated, keep it cool, and it works. I was also really thankful that this movie was able to retain Ratchet, Clank, and Quark's personalities down to a T like they've always been. You can't mess that up. If they mess that up, even the fans would be like, okay, no, you ruined this, you can't come back from this. No, Ratchet is still the same character we know. He's still wanting to help. He's still a hero. He's still smart. He's a little bit goofy. A little bit too goofy at times, but, you gotta work with what you know. Clank is still recognizable. He's got that little bit of sass in him. You can recognize his personality, and it works. And Quark, well, Quark is, what do I say about Quark? He's easily the worst character in the entire series to me, but what was interesting is that this movie decided to change things up a bit. So if you played the first game, you understand the story, but the reboot, the movie decided to add some things. For one, it elaborated a little bit on Ratchet's backstory. Not so much with the future trilogy where we find out about his real past, but enough past to fill in the blanks a little bit, because in the first game we didn't really know too much about him. And also, if you've played the first game, Captain Quark does the ultimate betrayal. Spoilers! He does that in the movie too, but this time there's reason to it. There is a believable reason. There's almost a sympathetic reason, and I liked how they did that too, because that gave some reason behind it. It was still stupid, but at least there was reason given to it, if I'm gonna be honest there, and I've said that a lot. I am trying to be honest through this. I'm trying to be fair here, because I don't want to be a Okay, that is weird. Why does that keep happening? Whatever, I'm sure it's just a glitch. Actually, you want to know something that's funny? As I've gotten to play more of the new Ratchet and Clank game, here's a surprising twist. You know how most movie tie-in games are crap? You can make a list out of the worst ones possible? The game feels better than the movie. That is really saying something in a very ironic twist of fate here. Anyway, in conclusion, what bothers me about this, with all the bad reviews that Ratchet and Clank has been getting, people are going to see the reviews and judge it as just another bad video game movie. Oh, what we tell you, we can throw it in the pile. But no, it's not that bad. I think a lot of people are being harsh on it. Granted, there are some moments that make me cringe, and I feel that this movie kind of strayed a little bit too far from its original source material. And I feel the celebrity voices and the story didn't quite mesh well together, but I still enjoyed it. I still liked it. If I'm going to be 100% honest, as a Ratchet and Clank fan here, I'm a tiny bit disappointed. But I am happy that Ratchet and Clank got a movie finally. I just wish they had fixed some things up, gone back to the drawing board and maybe taken out some of the cringe or maybe elaborated a little bit more on the story. But other than that, it is a solid flick that I can recommend. Now, Mr. Kevin Monroe, sir, you are going to be directing the Sly Cooper movie next. Please, don't mess this up. If the reception for your future Sly Cooper movie looks like this, you really may want to consider some things. But, I still enjoyed Ratchet and Clank. I think you guys could really enjoy it too. Go ahead and put down in the comments if you've seen the Ratchet and Clank movie, what your thoughts are on it. And additionally, if you've played any of the Ratchet and Clank games, what are your favorites? Personally, mine is Up Your Arsenal. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, Twitter, Patreon, all that good stuff. With that being said, I am the Toon Critic, keeping you totally tuned for your entertainment. Stay awesome.